Welcome to Eurozone, the podcast about European Ultimate. I'm Ravi Vasudevan, joined here by Liam Grant. And Liam, we get to talk about the most important tournament in Europe, which is, of course, the World Great Grandmasters Beach Ultimate Club Championships.
Oh, I think I'm going to say Copenhagen there. I think that's where you're leading with the joke you were playing. Yeah, I don't even know who won. Don't know.
It's a team called America. I think they've won all of them. It's just a bunch of old American men that came over to Sardinia. I think they played against some German team. I tried to get distracted at work and watch some of it, and I couldn't. I just had to work because it was so hard to watch.
Well, we're going to lead into ECF, obviously, but there was times where I was like, I wish I was an old person in Sardinia right now. There was times that when it was in the piss and rain, cycling home, drenched, all my clothes are wet, that I was like, wouldn't mind being a 70-year-old man and running around on the beach at the moment. Probably drinking some Sardinian sangria. I don't know what they have over there.
Yeah, that was tough. But yeah. It seems like some American team won against some German team. Not anything else to talk about. Of course, we are really here to talk about the XEUCF. But before we get there, Liam, you preparing yourself for Barcelona? You getting all excited for Copenhagen?
I was getting all excited for Copenhagen, and I just have to tell the team there that I can't go, and I'm so sad. So sad for me.
Why can't you go?
Half the crew in my fire station got COVID, and
oh no,
they're like, we can't go to work, we have COVID, and I was like, that's fair. And then they're like, Liam, you have to go to work now. And I said, I have flights and all the stuff booked to Barcelona. They're like, we don't care. There won't be a fire service if you're not going to be there. And I was like, well, that's fucking great.
Oh no.
And then part of that, there is actually other people who are off as well, but I'm the newest person in, and I'm getting absolutely shafted, which I've been
the breaks.
Yeah. So so annoying. Is this one, because it's supposed to go in 2019, I'd paid for every accommodation. It's been rolling around and being set back, and it's I can finally go, and then I'm not allowed to go. And yeah, I've been playing with old sandy bastards for a couple of years now, and definitely one of my favorite teams. I've always had a great time. I've always kind of played well. I've always really enjoyed it. So it would have been nice change from UCF. It would have been good contrast. Hopefully it would have been better weather. But if anyone's there, please have a drink for me, and I don't know, start some fires in my honor or something.
It's a sad story, Liam, but
I know.
Yeah, it's life sometimes when you got a real job.
Yeah, I have two real jobs now. You know.
Yeah, can you talk about the other real job, or is that?
I do. Yeah, no.
This podcast.
It got announced. There was I'm now a county councillor. If anyone knows what that is, I'm a county councillor in Ireland. We have it's local government. You obviously have national government, which is I don't know. We've kind of what we call TDs and senators. They're members of parliament, and then there's local government. So every county has county councillors, and they do a 5-year election thingy and all this kind of stuff, and they govern a county. So I'm a county Clare, so I'm a Clare county councillor. It was kind of bizarre how it happened. I'm not going to go into too much details about it, but yeah, it's a job as well. It gets paid, so now I have two jobs. Which is fantastic, but it's weird. The firefighter thing, I'm on call a lot. The council thing, you go to meetings and stuff, but again, you're actually losing a lot of free time. You put as much effort in as you want, and then either people like you and you get elected, or people don't like you and you don't get elected. So, I'm not the first person to be a firefighter and a county councillor. The jobs kind of complement each other. So, yeah, it's hopefully not going to take a huge amount of my time, but I was hoping it would be announced a week or two before ECF or afterwards, and end up happening on the day the press got word of it that I was being elected. And then on the way to the airport I was doing radio interviews and all this stuff, and it just made my preparation for ECF, and even at the tournament I was on the phone to senators and all this stuff who were congratulating me and wanting me to work on this project, and people ringing me about potholes on the road they want fixed, and I was just God, I probably was on that Wednesday and Thursday, over 100 phone calls easily, and probably 300, 400 messages, and that's not an exaggeration. Just from a lot of people congratulating me or other stuff, but a lot of people trying to help me, the county council, kind of incorporating me into how it works and all this kind of other stuff. So it's been a hectic week of my life, maybe the most hectic in many ways.
Mm-hmm. All right, and talking about other hectic stuff in your life to come, I think since the last podcast, the World Masters tournament was finally announced.
Yep.
It's going to be in Limerick, and as of course, everyone listening to this already knows. But the thing that jumped out to me is that they're like requiring countries to put in how many bids they want by like October 13th or something, or like it was like 2 weeks. They like put the thing out and they're like, yeah, in 2 weeks, let us know how many teams are coming.
Yeah. Like, we had deadlines when we had everything ready to go, and WFDF didn't, which was like, those deadlines were put in place in June, really. Like, we're like, yeah, that's time. I would hope if people are requesting that we can kick back those deadlines. I think we're ready to have enough teams signed up as it is that, like, I think we're going to go over what we expected. So, like, again, this is us and WFDF working together, so I'd like to make sure everyone has a chance to apply. But if you're thinking about signing a team, get your national federation to register. Make sure they're doing that. If teams pull out, there's waiting lists and stuff like that. Definitely try and get it together before that deadline. Don't take my word that we'll accept afterwards. But I would hope. I understand it is a short period of time. I think a lot of people knew this was happening. Like, I think all the federations were contacting and being like, it's going to be in Ireland around this time. So there was a little bit of a warning, but I definitely understand that. A lot of people messaged me, is like, why is it so soon? I was like, there's a lot of reasons why that is, but hopefully, I think it will happen. I think there'll be lots of teams. We might have to limit teams.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say maybe. America's a registered load, so depends how many Yanks you want to take, really.
Not too many. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know for Wizards, we kind of didn't do anything until the Swiss Ultimate Association gave us a message, which was after the official announcement. So now we're like rapidly trying to figure out if we have enough people to either go mixed or open or whatever. So we're working on it, but I'm excited about it. Looks like it's going to be a fun time over there in Limerick. Hopefully the weather can't be worse than Bruges was, I don't think.
We have some great all-weather facilities, if it is.
More than one synthetic pitch.
More
ready
than one.
to go.
More than one.
We'll talk about all that in a moment. So, I think that's enough intro spiel, so we can get into the main course of the podcast, which is recapping XEUCF, the extended European Ultimate Championship Finals in Bruges, happened this past weekend from Thursday to Sunday. Long event, basically the return to elite European Ultimate. The weather sucked bad.
Yeah, like how much we want to dwell on that. Like,
just we could talk about for a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I remember like in the lead up, I like one of my few picks or calls for the tournament was the weather being bad, and I talked about a lot affecting results, and I think it did affect results definitely. As a person playing it, like one on the Wednesday night, I went out and got absolutely smash drunk because our first game was like 3:40, and I was like, I'll get this all out of the way day one, and obviously proceeded to drink every other night. But that means it's just kind of like wasn't really getting my stuff ready in the morning in terms of waterproof and planning well how to keep my stuff dry. Now the first day wasn't the worst, but like I was a bit down at times, just like going back to your gear bag, you like take your jacket off, put it on in between points, so your jacket's soaked inside and outside. You're trying to like all your kit's muddy and wet, and you're trying to like how much kit you have, and you're putting on like wet muddy kit, and it's just it was a little bit like tough. And I think most teams are sending 20, 21 players, 23 players, and I'm a run-of-the-mill D-line player, so I'm not getting a huge amount of running around. So like sometimes you're standing on the sideline for 3 or 4 points and cold. So it was tough. And like everyone knows it's more enjoyable to play Ultimate in sunny conditions. The only way to enjoy that is to get really riled up, like get super excited and intense. I think that's the only way to play in those conditions. If you try and hide away from it or just not like embrace the mud and rain, you're just going to have an awful time. But saying that's easier than doing it. But yeah, it was really bad.
I saw most of the top level games. Like those people are all doing what you're saying, like putting all they could into the games and really getting riled up. How was it? Not that you were at the lowest end of the brackets, but how was it elsewhere? Did you get the vibe that people were kind of not happy, or did you get the vibe that people were just kind of enjoying the moment everywhere and around the tournament?
No, I think like a lot of the teams, once we fell out of pre-quarters, I think pretty much every team we played after that was maybe somewhat expecting to be there. So like their motivation was always just to go and try and win games, you know. I think probably maybe for us, and I think we played Monkey Grenoble again, probably two teams that were hopeful to make quarters, and it's a bit weird. Yeah, I do think like there was some soggy Ultimate players that looked a bit down and out at times, but I think Bruges thought is the only way to cure that, and that's how I got through the week.
Yeah, and that was quite nice. It did have a lot of like the Tom's Tourney vibe. It was a little more of a party vibe than previous UCFs, I think, partially because of the weather and everybody just going to the pub every night at the tent, and part of it also because like we haven't seen each other in 2 years, and it was like a reconnecting. That was really cool, really nice to have like the whole big European Ultimate scene back together at something again after such a long break. Yeah, so from my perspective, I was reporting and I was commentating. It was also pretty miserable to just watch games in that weather, like without running. But at least I had, a lot of layers on. I didn't have to like put jerseys on and stuff like that. Just had my raincoat on the whole time. I had an umbrella when I needed it. So pluses and minuses from reporting versus playing in that type of weather, I think. Yeah, well-organized event as per usual. The Toms guys know what they're doing. They did the best they could. We'll talk maybe a little bit when we get to the women's division about the like last minute format change and how people might have felt about that. But I think overall,
I'm surprised they're allowed to keep the grass pitches going. Like, surely they,
like day 3.
Yeah, I think they were telling me they reseed them every year. Someone told me that before, but like they definitely destroyed them for a significant amount of time, or it will cost a lot of money to replace them. I do believe they're owned by the council. Like that's I was surprised they were not one or two of them, or something about like limiting damage to pitches. I'm glad we were allowed still playing, but I think there's a lot of places would have, pulled the cord on at least some games, or done something what happened like in London 2016, where it's just like just knock out, or we're going to stop for the rain for a bit, and if it gets better, like start again. I think I've been in a lot of tournaments where in those conditions to save the grass and bad damage to pitch. So yeah, I'm glad we were allowed. Skeptical about how much trouble they're going to get in.
Things got canceled on Sunday. So like on Saturday, we lost the last round of the day. And then I think some fields we lost throughout the weekend, but we were able to get enough games in.
Yeah.
So then on Sunday, they were only playing the bronze medal matches in the final. And then there were I remember that night they were looking and saying like, okay, are we going to even be able to play all the bronze medal matches? Because the fields they were planning to play on were completely destroyed. And then they apparently found 2 fields that they could have done the bronze medal matches in. But then by the morning, there was a huge storm the night before Sunday, which they were expecting. And then all those fields are just, even the turf fields completely underwater. All the grass fields are underwater. So they're like last minute decided to have these like 45-minute bronze medal matches, which I think, was probably good that they could get them all in, because I think those were pretty meaningful for the people who played them. So yeah, they had like 45-minute bronze medal matches, and then there was like literally 5 minutes between games for the final, and just like trying to cram in all the games. So it worked out in the end. We had some great finals. We'll get all into that in a sec. But yeah, the overall vibe was just great to see. Like weather aside, it was just great to see Elite European Ultimate again. It wasn't that windy. I mean, there were a few windy hours, I think, throughout the weekend, but most of the time it was just wet. And I think so like the level of Frisbee was actually quite good. The only problem was like by Saturday, the fields are so bad that people are just like slipping and sliding. If you watch like the Salisbury's Putty semifinal, which was the last game played on grass, it looked awful. It looked awful out there. But that aside, like we got to see some really, really good games, and that was really cool.
Got to see your friends. I think that's like, if you managed to bump into somebody I haven't seen in years in the pub, preferably, it was a really nice experience. And like, I thought I might forget everyone's names and who they are. And I did. That was good. Certainly like my drinking friends anyway. And so, yeah, it was nice to feel the community again, see people's faces, remember why you do this. Yeah. And there was high points, but it was a struggle at times.
Okay, so let's start talking about the games. If you haven't yet, go check out the Ulti World coverage. We had we had a live blog going through the day. Every day we had daily recaps each night, and then we had like a recap of both semifinals of each division and a recap of the finals. We're gonna have some subscribers only articles coming out soon. One of them, for example, is Sean Colfer interviewed all the women that were in the top 8 to get their response to the last minute format change. And I will just spoil it that John Dock, coach of 3SB, gives quite the interview of that reaction. He was none too pleased with the situation. All the other teams were quite fine with it. But so if you want to definitely be a subscriber to check that out. So yeah, let's go. Let's start talking about some Frisbee. I think we can start with the mixed division, given that you played in it. So yeah, what were your impressions? I mean, we can go through the results for people who didn't follow. I'm guessing most people that are listening to this followed here, but it was a repeat of the final, Grit versus Salisbury from 2019. Grit won this time. It was all chalk. The top 4 seeds all made semifinals. So it was Grit versus Flow and Salisbury versus Putty. As expected, Grit kind of trashed Flow a little bit, and Salisbury Putty was actually a close, good semifinal, just kind of like 2 years ago. Not much has changed there. But yeah, aside from those top results, I mean, we'll talk about those in a bit, but what were your overall impressions both playing in and observing the top level of the mixed division in Europe this year?
Yeah, there was definitely serious gaps between top and bottom. I think Grut and Salisbury and Putty a little bit, probably Grut and Salisbury a tiny bit ahead of Putty, but those 3 teams are so far ahead of everyone else in terms of, they just are, like there's just, I think Flow have done well and have that athleticism, but I don't know if they are really at that level. And after that,
Universe third place game for bronze.
Yeah,
Putty beat a Flow on Universe. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll take that back.
They managed to put it together there.
Yeah, I don't know. Bronze medal games are a bit weird, but like, yeah, I wouldn't see Flow beating Salisbury, although they've done in the past, right? I just think they're better. I just think Salisbury look like, and you can see it by the results over this tournament anyway, they seemed ahead of everyone else. Yeah, and then after that is probably kind of what I expected the mixed division to be like in Europe. Kind of, you know, each team has probably the level of players, a few that are of that kind of open women's division level, and then there's a lot of slightly below that, and teams that are male heavy, teams that are female heavy, teams that are young, teams that are probably aren't as good as other teams, but really, really good at playing mixed. Like you can tell they've been playing mixed for a long time, and that's helped them. So it was definitely less physical, certainly for a lot of the belt lads, which we'll probably touch on in a bit. But yeah, it was really enjoyable, very spirited, probably from the other teams. I don't know about my team, but very spirited. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. I think the mixed pulling went pretty well.
Yeah.
Teams
I didn't even notice it most of the time, which shows you how fine it is. Like, it was fine.
Yeah, I think you would notice where like teams don't have a super strong female puller. Like,
yeah,
it was definitely for us, like going upwind was we don't have someone who can put in the end zone going upwind. That's just a fact. But that's an advantage to teams that do. You know, there is teams that definitely do, and that's a skill that they're better at, and they get rewarded for it. I think teams forgot. I think was it the Salisbury Putty game? There's 1 or 2 games where it was 4 women in a line and a man pulled, and the opposition are like, no. I think we did it once. I think we just said it once or twice. We spotted them, like someone else holding the disc, and we're like, nah, not today, my friend.
Is there a rule? Like, because I know in the rules, if somebody messes up the gender ratio, there are provisions for how to handle that. I wonder if there's provisions in this whiff diff rule for the pulling, how to handle if they pull it wrong. Like maybe you get the brick, or you should get a half field, or like, I don't know. There should be some way to like call an offsides off of it or something.
Well, obviously I wrote the rule, Ravi, so I know this. Yeah. And of course there is, and that is you get iced. You have to do, if a dude pulls instead of a woman, he has to do a Smirnoff Ice still there. There should all the volunteers have one on standby for when that happens.
Only one. It could happen more than once in the game.
Yeah, I'd say probably 3 or 4. Yeah, this is a repull, isn't it? I guess you could choose to play on. Who made this rule? Why didn't they think about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, thinking about all the contingencies isn't your strong suit in terms of rules. It's like you're an ideas man, and like the follow through.
Well, like
there's be somebody else.
There's always things. It's like, what happens if someone pulls a banana instead, or like, do you know what I mean? There's all these hypotheticals. Just play by the rules, and then you don't have to worry about what happens when you don't play by the rules. And if you're unsure, just do it again.
All right, so mixed polling was there. How about some results? So actually, my picks were almost completely bang on in mixed. The only thing I got wrong was that I had.
That's not true.
Well, from quarters on. The thing that I got wrong was that I had Seski. I had Mainzel Renner in the quarters except for Seski, and the rest of it I had completely correct.
Yeah. Well, like you got rewarded for picking in the bracket, but like. You just to be like you picked Red Shot to finish second in the group.
Yeah, okay. I picked Red Shot. I know that I overestimated Bologna's depth. That their fifth team there would be any good. That was
underestimated Pelt, I think as well.
I did not. I picked you. Where did I pick Pelt? Hold on a second.
You picked us not to make pre-quarters. You jerk.
That could be true.
I know it's true.
I did pick you not to make pre-quarters, and you ended ninth, right? Getting that.
Well, I called that group just perfectly, unlike you, the exact opposite of you. I even pointed out that we'd lose to Monkey because it was going to be our first game. But I said if we played them, if it wasn't the first game, we'd beat them, and then we played them again and we beat them. Mm-hmm. So you know what I mean? I think
way to know your team very well. Great job.
I knew Monkey as well. Like, you know, there's lots of stuff you got wrong. You just didn't get punished for it. Well, I got one or two things wrong. I got severely punished for it. You know what I mean? You see, I'm really very bitter about this loss as we progress. And like, look, okay, you picked all the top teams to do exactly as they're expected. Like, whoopee, Ravi. Way to pick the top seeds to, you know.
It is what happened. The whole point is to predict what's going to happen, and I predicted what happened.
Yeah, well, like, if this is bookies, my picks would be, I'll be getting more money, you know what I mean? I'm picking the spice here. Trying to make the podcast interesting. It's my job.
Yeah, that sounds like what you would say when you've lost. So yeah, what else happened here? Orebro. So yeah, let's talk about the top end. What did you think about Krut? Did you see them much this weekend? I saw them play. They looked very good. I think they're integrating their big team was actually quite successful. They had like kind of a top O-line, a top D-line, and then like a secondary D-line with a lot of the younger players they're trying to kind of give a chance for and integrate to. And that second D-line, I think, got 1 or 2 breaks in the Salisbury's game. So seeing a lot of those, like the new youth talent in the Netherlands pop up was interesting.
I think
aside from that,
I think they did integrate those players well. I was worrying that they might hurt the team, integrating like some of the older players, more experienced, not really part of that golden generation. But I think Chris Harris did well on that team. Maybe a slightly different style of play, but I think he played his game and it actually did well. I think Fuka did all right. I think maybe just having more competition for spaces and other people pushing each other, and like that's such a big squad, you know, you have to perform if you want to actually get on the pitch. So I think they did well. I thought, you know, as people said to me, who's better between Lola and Floor? And I think a lot of times in the last year I said Floor, but I think, well, I don't know, maybe it's Lola. I might be changing my tune here.
Lola's stepping up.
Yeah.
She was good. She was playing on she was like kind of heading up the D-line and doing a really good job there. Tom Blossman, who I think joined the team after the World's run last time, so sort of newer member of the team, O-line handler, filling in that role, kind of that Tjeerd Atez and Lauko van der Weijden left open. I thought he did a really good job with that. And yeah, like you said, Chris Harris playing really well on the O-line. The D-line, we had like Dan Epstein, had a really good connection with Lola. You see them playing really well together whenever they got the turn. Yeah, it looks like a really good team. The biggest thing I'm worrying about them is that they're not going to have any competition next year to prepare for Worlds, and they're going to like go up against an American team again and then have to deal with that pressure for the first time in Cincinnati. I met the coach of the France mixed program, who's one of the coaches for the France World Games team, and he was saying that he's invited them and I think Salaspils over, and I think he maybe is inviting the other World Games teams as well. But he was saying he's kind of doubting like whether he wants to show Germany and GB, what they have, so they would rather play Krut and Salaspils and like get some training that way. And I think Krut should definitely capitalize on that. They should go play these World Games teams next year if they want to do well at WUC, because I think that, the European club has shown that like it's not really going to give them much of a push in the regular season.
No, completely agree. Like, it's almost futile them playing in Europe at this moment. If they want to be that level of a mixed team, it just doesn't really exist outside them and Salaspils and maybe Putin Flow to a certain extent. But I'd think, I don't know why more European teams don't do this. Is like, I suppose now with COVID, it's a bit different, and like go to stuff like the US Open. I think that should be their like main goal, even maybe more so than Worlds, because you're going to go to Worlds and you're not going to play a load of European teams most of the time. So probably get 1 or 2 games to get maybe the top of their group, maybe not because they're going to be seeded like 8 or something this time. So they'll probably get a pre-quarter against the US team or a quarter. If they don't win that, they could end up just playing Hasslish again or something like that. So if I was them, I'd be like, let's go to US Open. It's definitely going to be, well, I don't know, that tournament's a bit all over the place at the moment, but generally speaking, it's been like really good mixed teams, and they'll have lots of competitive games. Probably more so going to Worlds, and maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. I'm just like, go to that. And like, obviously you try and go to Worlds as well, and maybe the Worlds year is just that's not the year to do it, but part of following the year after or stuff like that, I think they should be like, look, we're going to train super hard and go to, it's usually in Minneapolis, whatever, try to go to that, and then they can do
this year would have been a good year. This year would have been a good year to go. Yeah, but obviously it wasn't open to international teams this year. I think there was only a men's division also. So it was one thing.
I think there was there not? Yeah. Well, like, I know the same way that like Revolution went over. Okay, Revolution won. I'm not expecting them to win, but they can go, and I think they'd beat teams. I think they would beat teams. I think they'd get scalps. I think that's the test they need, really. Or I don't know. I just don't think they're going to get tested like that in Europe. Maybe when they can go like, hey, let's World Games teams, you want to come do a thing with us and we'll train against you or something like that. Or maybe there's something there, a way of them preparing of teams at their level. But like, I'd say the majority of that tournament, their training sessions were probably more of a benefit to them than playing half the teams at UCF.
Yeah, from what I gather, it seems like Salaspils aren't going for it. And I talked to Lasma and Arvids after the game, and they're both saying, like, just so everyone remembers, like, we're not a mixed club. We train open and women's, and that's like what we want to do. We just don't have enough players to do that at the UCF, so we come together as mixed, but we don't practice for this, basically. And that plus I think money wise and commitment wise, they had a problem even getting enough players to this tournament, I've heard. So like getting a team together to go to Cincinnati is probably not going to happen. And so they probably won't be able to play that many times against during the regular season either, if their goal is in Cincinnati. Right. So like, and that's the best competition they have by far, right? is playing Salaspils. So yeah, go there. I think I heard also that Davide Mori offered the World Games teams to come to Bologna, and he would put like a CUSP World Games team together. Like, Grut should do that. They should go to Bologna and like be like, hey, bring some top Shout and Lafota players. Let's play against you, because like they need that if they want to do well. Like you say, U.S. Open's the thing, but like their goal is Worlds. They want to win Worlds. That's what they want to do. And so they got to find a way to prepare for that. It reminds me of like Clapham about 10 years ago. Right now, I think there's teams that are giving Clapham more trouble, but like 10 years ago, I remember like every team would maybe play a close half against Clapham, and they would just completely destroy them in the second half. And like they had trouble finding competition that before they got to Worlds, and then that's they almost beat Revolver in 2014 Lecco, and if they had maybe had a little more practice at that level, they probably could have won that game, right? And like that's the problem I think I see with Krut, is that they won't be able to rise to that pressure in the moment when it's the first time they've seen it ever.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, elsewhere in the division, what else was interesting about mixed division? So, yeah, Saalspils were good, as usual. Laszlo Kuklitska is amazing. Arvid Zalowski is amazing. Santa Sinica also played incredible for them.
She stood out to me. I didn't realize she was as much of a baller as she is. Fair play to her. She was class. Yeah. What was her stats in that final? She had some crazy
It was
stats.
crazy. Yeah.
She had like 4 goals and 2 assists or something like that. It was...
Yeah, I can pull it up. Just give me a sec. Grid Saalspils. So yeah, Santa Sinica. She had 4 goals and 2 assists in that game. And Arvid's had 3 goals and 4 assists, so pretty close to each other, 7 and 6. Very impressive performances. Putti, very good. I saw Putti in that first game against Orebro, and I thought they didn't look good at all. I think they I don't know what was going on there. They looked really slow. Maybe it was just the grass or something. And I was like, oh, this team's not going to be able to challenge anybody. But they played a really, really close game against Saalspils. I actually haven't seen it fully because the weather conditions were really bad at that time. So I was in the tent working on some stuff during that game.
I watched
while
it.
The mixed reporter was out there watching.
I watched the whole thing.
How was it?
In the mud. It was really good. Well, like, it was and it wasn't. It was like some great play, super intense, but like, still the majority of turnovers were people just slipping the disc out of their hands, bouncing it, or like slipping. You know what I mean? Like, the majority of the turns were still forced by the weather conditions. You know what I mean? But the intensity was there. Vestman was amazing. And I think, like, watching that game, I think it still would have been, the conditions, if they're perfect, still would have been that close. And
yeah,
I like
really?
from watching that game, I do think Putti have it to play at that level. I think their lads will be able to complete athletically, and I can't remember all their names, but there's a couple of guys who actually really did impress me, Putti, with their athleticism. I don't know if I can think of their names here now, but yeah, no, watching that, I felt, Putti were of that level, and like that scoreline was reflective of how tight the game was. It wasn't like, okay, it's just it's tight, because I think it was Jason McKean. I didn't really know him before. Yeah. He was very light. There's a couple of guys. I think Sivo looked actually very good still as a handler. Vestman was just a beast. A couple of times, I remember I was talking to Ed Garvey on the sideline, and they're just like, Sal's supposed to throw hooks near Vestman. He's like, stop doing that. He's like, please don't throw hooks to the person being marked by Vestman. And so I was like, yeah, you need to stop doing that. Because I think it's just in those kind of games. That's why I won't look into the third place game as much. I think they probably played more of their roster, but they do have the players to compete at that level. Definitely. It was a great game.
They got like Tommy Sandberg, Jessa Sestamoinen, a lot of the top names that you've seen on Otso before, Roni Hotari. So like, yeah, a lot of their guy level is good. But like I said, in that first game they had against Orebro, they did not look good. So I guess maybe some people were missing that weren't there on Thursday morning, and maybe, because when I saw them playing against Saalspils, I was like, oh, this is another notch. I did think that if they had played that game on turf, that I think Saalspils would have won by more, because I think though they had some good guys, I think Saalspils' athleticism was definitely higher than theirs, and that gets a little mitigated on that muddy field. So I think the gap would have been a little bigger had they played on turf, but I don't know.
You weren't there, Ravi. You weren't there. Just not committed.
I watched some of it.
Orebro impressed me as they beat us convincingly in a pre-quarter. You were
up when I left. I was watching that game at the beginning, and you're up 5-3, and I was like, oh, okay.
And I looked at you like, this one's in the bag, Ravi. No need to come back again. They seemingly look like a bunch of kids, and we've turned them a couple of times, and I think we're going to beat them, and I won't worry about it. That's how I felt at that exact moment. I don't think we turned them again after that moment. I think they might have played. I think they played a clean game on offense. I think they might have played certainly in the second half, which is like not something any team ever does against us. Like
it was just anger guard though. I mean, when I saw them playing earlier against, I think it was Ketchup or something. It was just anger guard doing everything. He didn't sit like the whole second half. And he was throwing a bit to his sister, Alva Angergaard, and to...
She was injured in our game. She was injured in our game.
What's up?
She did not play in our game, Alva.
Oh, she didn't play in her.
Nope.
Well, and they still beat you.
Still
there was like 4 people that did anything on that team in the catch-up game that I watched. It was like him his sister, then Vendel Victorson, and then Simon Ackerling, I think is the guy's name, the old, kind of older guy.
He's not that. He's definitely younger than me. It's funny. He was like a young up and coming player. Then he just got a bit of a, let's say, a Viking look about him all of a sudden. A bit more stout. And he's still a good player.
Put on some pandemic pounds.
He's just very solid.
He's a really good player.
Yeah, he's very solid player. And like, there was times they were just like playing through four and they're actually like leaving almost 3 or 4 people behind the disc. This happened to me once or twice. Then like, okay, it's like, okay, I'll go poach lane. But then that person I was guarding would just be an easy reset and they just take the reset and try again. And I was like, okay, I'll go guard him now. And then they're just the 1 or 2 players that isolate downfield. We couldn't get a turn off him. It was so bizarre. But in the first 2 points, we got loads of turns off him. I was like, okay, as long as this keeps happening. But yeah, Angergaard was incredible. Like genuinely very, very, very good. Like I knew he was good, but like he had, again, against us anyway, an outstanding game. Amazing hawks, lots of big skies. Did a lot for that team. The women were very good. It was Erica Nielsen. They played through their women a lot as cutters, and they got yards against us in that game. Yeah, we lost 15-10 or something after being like 5-3 up. And yeah, like I felt like I lost a bunch of kids. I did. And I felt like at times we were maybe better, but I think they played better, just performed better on the day, but also just better strategies together. We were a bit all over the place. I'm kind of glad they won in a way. Yeah, fair play to them. And they were actually mostly nice. Very nice. It was a bit of a heated game at times. Which we did terrible in spirit. And I think you can read the comments.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I'm shocked, Liam, that you would do terrible in spirit.
I'm a nice guy. That's where the thing's like...
Not you, the pelts. Pelts and mixed, let's say.
Yeah, we're like the most... The 3 or 4 guys are probably the most physical people in the open division. And then they go play the mixed division and...
That doesn't fly there.
No. Does not fly there. Yeah.
I guess the only other surprise was Mainzel-Renner not being very good.
Yeah, what was with that about?
I didn't really see them play. I actually didn't see them play. I don't know.
I didn't see them play either. They were not great.
They lost like 15-3 to like Flow, I think, or something like that. And that game was streamed. So
who picked that one?
That looked like it was going to be the best 1-2 matchup in the division, but like, yeah. All right. Any other words in mixed division before we move on?
No.
Seski doing well, getting the best result they've ever had. So that's good for them.
All right.
Yeah. Looked pretty solid.
We beat UFO at Universe Point. Is it UFO or UFO? I never know which one to call them.
You can do both.
Yeah. And genuinely, a person doesn't turn over and I hadn't turned over all tournament, and I had 2 really bad turnovers that game. So I picked them for Spoon, if you remember, which they like made very clear during the game and after the game. And they were just some good players. Like Mads is playing them. He's a good player. Their handlers were very good. Their handlers were very, very good, in fairness to them. And a really, really nice team. Really, really nice team. I actually partied with them that night or something like that. But yeah, I dropped something outside the end zone to get a break, and then on game point, sent deep, hovering over me and Mads, but I was able to box him out, and then I drop it to win the game. And I was like, and then they go up and score, and then it was like Universe Point, us upwind, and thankfully the O-line bailed me out of it. But like, I did my best to lose to a spoon pick, which would have, like, they were relishing. That's what was motivating them, was to make me look like an idiot. And I was trying to look like an idiot, apparently, but yeah. So I will not pick them for a spoon again.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's my old team. I played with them at Worlds in 2014.
Very nice.
But there was a very different team back. I don't think there's a single player that was on that team that is on the current team.
If it was your crappy team, that would have been fine.
All right, I think that's enough. That's enough mixed. In terms of picks, it's going to be, like I said, my picks were almost perfect because we only counted quarterfinals on. You're right that I had some definite bad picks earlier than that. But you, on the other hand, your biggest mistakes were picking Salzpils to win. That's not going to. And then you had Mainzel-Renner in semis. And then you had Monkey and Pelt in quarters. So you had a few errors there. My only problem was Mainzel-Renner in quarters. So yeah, I'm going to take the win in the mixed division. Let's move over to women's, where Jaka took their first ever title in club history, winning 15-9, I think, against Shout. I don't think a single team put up 10 points on them all tournament. They completely dominated everybody. Looked very, very good. Rasta playing she just keeps getting better, even though she's getting a little. One would think a little older. She's master's age, but she just keeps playing better, and she was amazing. Ines Bringel also played really well. Robin Fennig, of course. So great set of players there, and deserved win for Jaka.
Yeah. I think Paula Bass did very well. Saw her scoring lots of goals, which I don't think I've ever really seen her score lots of goals.
Well, she has a broken foot. So she just recovered from a broken foot. She made sure to tell the commentators, don't make fun of me of my cutting because my foot's half broken. Then she was scoring goals deep. So maybe she's just faster because of it.
Yeah, broken foot's grand. People talk up broken foot. If it's your top of your foot, it's grand. If it's the bottom of your foot, your calcaneus something, then it's bad. So she was fine. She was fine. She was just covering herself if she did play bad. She'd be like, oh, it was the foot. But her foot was fine. Her foot was fine.
Bad stuff. Bad luck for Shout. I mean, I think the week before the tournament, Laura Feralfi broke something in her shin. So she was out on crutches. Then they lost Irena Scazzieri in the final. Aurora Leshnik also wasn't there. I think they lost 5 players or something, including Feralfi and Leshnik, before the tournament started. And then, we're definitely missing some key pieces in the final there. You saw Chesky was put in a place to have to do everything, basically, when 2 of your other stars aren't there. And she was just making lots of mistakes. I think she had too much on her shoulders and wasn't able to play her game. Jaka took advantage of that. Really nice first half. Shout actually won it. And you even said at the beginning of that game, you thought Shout were looking like the better team, but then second half, Jaka just put their foot down. Almost had a perfect half. Almost closed it out 8-0, but the Shout scored 1 goal on the last bit before Jaka closed it out. But yeah.
Who got injured mid game? Was that Sofia Scazzieri?
Irena Scazzieri.
Irena Scazzieri. Yeah, that was
the better one, and is the top.
All right, okay.
Sophia's really good. Sophia's really good on defense, but Irena is in that. I remember in that run when Italy beat Germany, it was basically Feralfi, Chesky, and Irena Scazzieri, just the 3 of them demolishing Germany in the last 5 points of the game.
That was a big loss. It was a real daunting moment. She did quite let out a bit of a scream, which was sad to hear. And I remember saying to you and the other commentators, I've learned something this weekend, and that is Italian people's bones are made of spaghetti, and or pasta. A lot of Italian players just broke either before the tournament, during. I don't know. That's maybe just a lot of unfortunate injuries. I don't know what they are. But that hurt both Italian teams a lot. Both Bologna teams. Because there were so many people missing from that Shout team. Looking at the roster, where was Linnea Siebert as well? Where she wasn't there, was she?
I didn't commentate any of their games, so I wasn't paying that much attention to their roster. I think she was there, but
I don't remember seeing her or chatting to her. Aurora, just then wasn't their day. The Bologna team, but I thought top to bottom, probably the roster was a little bit better than Jaka. I think some of their, second string players, their defense is really good. I just when I turn up to the game, I was every single one of these Italian players are really, really good at defense. And I felt that wasn't really the case with Jaka, but Jaka were really, really good at offense. They were, especially when they played through their key players, they just looked like scoring easier. And it didn't really matter. They're going to get the disc every now and again, so they just kept scoring goals. So, looked alive for them as their first title.
Linnea Seibert was there. She had 2 assists and 1 goal in the final, so she was definitely there. Yeah.
How did I not see her?
But I don't know.
Okay, tape it all back. We can't cut that out. I'm just friends with her. I never chatted to her, and I was like, "How?" Okay, well done to her. You missed all that.
So let's go. I think after the top, those were kind of the top 2, right? It was a little bit of wasn't really much pressure on them. I think Valkyria put a pretty good game against them in the semi, but I think they're just a little bit not deep enough to deal with Shout. Let's see, no, the final score is 15-9, so I think it might have looked closer than it was. But I think maybe surprising to some is that, the two other semifinalists were Valkyria and Gravity. Some people not picking those teams to do that well, but especially Gravity without Fiona Murnau and Sarah Melvin. I know they're sick of us saying that that's...
Who? Never heard of them.
Exactly.
Don't know who you're talking about.
But no, Gil Heaney was amazing. Chambers was amazing. Like, the rest of the team really played well. They have a very good team. And if they can add those two pieces to that team for the World Ultimate Club Championships next year, I think that's going to be a very dangerous team for that season. And I'm very excited to see them. But good on them getting bronze medal. I think that's the best. I think in mixed, Rebel has got a bronze medal before. Is that correct? This is the best Irish team in a single gender division has ever done.
I think so. Yeah, and look, it was great to see him play. You know, let's say other players step up. You know what I mean? I think you said Jessica Chambers was great there. Jane Linehan was fantastic. I think they played what they were going to do. They played a zone. They're really, really good at it, particularly with Jane at the back of that zone. Covers a lot of ground. Everyone's pretty good at their jobs they have. I thought Claire Gilheeney was great. Clean Doyle. Look, yeah, they played a much more balanced style of offense where everyone has to get involved. You know what I mean? The 7 people on the field are probably touching the disc as much. And I think that they showed they're all well able to play and they've been training really hard. And yeah, I thought Anya was great. I think there was one point I saw her score a goal, she'd been marked by Levka, and a shot was sent to the end zone and they were neck and neck. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, Levka's going to gain a yard and get the block. And no, Anya went toe to toe with her and got the grab. And I was like, okay.
Nice.
I've not seen her doing that much that side of the game. Like, I don't think she really scored many goals in that kind of way, like going deeper more, which was impressive. Yeah, I think they're all great. I was asked not to mention the two people you mentioned, so I'm just going to pretend I don't know who they are. And well, under Gravity, they're great. Yeah, and they deserve that.
No, they were good.
Yeah. And where did you pick them to come?
Let me take a look at my picks here. I picked them to come. That's Liam's picks. Robbie's picks are here. I did pick them to make power pools, but not to make semis. So
you picked them to come third in their group. I think you picked them to come third in their group, did you?
I did pick them to come third in their group. That's correct. But then still make it into power pools.
You got away with so many rubbish picks. Like, you did. Fuck's sake.
Hey man, final numbers don't lie.
Well, like, the scoring system is flawed. Man, that's what I'm going at here. You know, we did the whole bracket. Well, if
you want to come up with a better, I'm always the one who has to come up with these point systems. You want to come up with something better for next time? Be my guest, man.
I think we just argue who won after we do the picks, and then any actual scoring system debate. A panel of judges decide who was better at picking.
Okay, the other good team in the women's division was Valkyria, getting 4th place. Very talented team. We already knew Sarah Eklund was amazing. Molly Robbins, really good on defense. Really impressed me this tournament. Barbara Kundalit played good and bad. I saw her make a few mistakes in some key games as well, but also sometimes doing some absolutely amazing things. Linda Ekborg is a player who I didn't know very well. She was also incredible on defense. Kind of story with Valkyria is their O-line was very good at offense. Their D-line was very good at defense. But their D-line was not very good at offense. They just didn't have, like, if they didn't cross players over, they just could not have the skills to do something with the disc against good teams. You saw that in their first game they had streamed against Shout. They were getting turns on Shout, like, almost every point. And then they would just give it back. They just, like, couldn't score any of them. And then in, like, some of the key games, like in the quarterfinal, they just played their top. They played really well. I was commentating that game and I said, if Valkyria want to win this game against Jinx, what they're going to have to do is, like, make sure their offense points are short and make sure any D points where their stars aren't in are long. So they might not get the break, but, like, at least make the points stretch out long so their O-line players can rest so that later in the game they can cross them over and get the points. And they did just that. Like, that's exactly what they did. And eventually they were able to, like, cross Sarah Eklund over to D, cross Kundalit over to D, and Yeah, was a very good team and had a great game against Jinx there and made their way to the quarterfinals. Couldn't manage to get a medal, but they came in with no expectations. This is the first time playing a competitive outdoor tournament as a team outside of Sweden. So I think they're probably really stoked about getting fourth. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can keep this going and finally have like a nice Swedish women's team out there really competing at the top levels.
Yeah, I thought Oda Humlong was great for them. I said I'd have a beer with Oda at Kopatanga, and I'll be able to now. I was actually hanging out with them a little bit on the sideline with my good friend Tommy, also better known as Thomas Eriksson, but I'm calling him Tommy now. So we were always hanging, having the chats on the sideline, and yeah, Oda played great. I think it's great. Like they're really developing Swedish talent again. Like obviously there was the golden Sweden generation, but this is a new generation. We see it at Örebro. We see this now at Valkyria. I think it's something Gravity's trying to show as well. It's nice to see teams, not heavily relying on pickups to do everything, like really improving their own homegrown. I think slowly every year improving their own player base, which is good to see as well. So yeah, look, they did great and fair play to them. I think a lot of them are going to Kopatanga and they're going to have a great time there as well.
Jinx was next team in, I think. Probably the closest team that missed semis to making it. And I'm worried about this, man. With the amount of star players on their team, they didn't do nearly as well as I thought they could have. Of course, they got top 8 and it was not like they had a disastrous tournament, but they started the tournament off playing Free Speed, which is a team that's not very deep, but has a few stars on it, obviously. And we're down like 2-6, and they had to come back and win it on Universe. And then they lost to a team like Valkyria, and they had like a number of German World Games teams players on that. And that's like making me like start to doubt my pick that Germany's going to be outperforming, the likes of France and GB based on a lot of that's based on their women. And yeah, they didn't quite get it together here. I don't know exactly. Maybe they didn't practice enough this season or something, but like the names on that team and the results didn't quite match up to me.
Yeah, I guess one Anna Gerner being injured was a massive Quasi-injured, yeah? What's the scoop?
Yeah, she was playing.
Well, she's playing. Yeah,
she played a lot. She so she couldn't throw flicks with her throwing hand, but she was throwing lefty backhands, and she was able to throw backhand with her throwing hand.
Okay, I was just told she was injured. I didn't realize.
Yeah, she was injured. She like broke her wrist or something, but she still played.
Okay, yeah.
She definitely like wasn't going for like layout Ds with her cast hand every now and then. So like I sometimes it felt like to me she was holding back a little bit from what I've seen her before, but she was definitely on the field. So they had her, they had like Nikki Priya, they had Vera Forth, like a lot of really, really strong German women players, but just couldn't quite put it together to do as well as I thought that list of players could have done.
Yeah, I actually was chatting to a woman on Team Ellen. I think it's Ellen Biegelbach. I hope that's not how you say her last name, but it's a fair dig at it anyway. Biegelbach. But her dad played for Wall City. I didn't realize Wall City is quite an old team. It's been going back a while. But apparently she was wearing this. I saw she was wearing this cotton T-shirt that was a Wall City T-shirt, and it's had a really cool logo and design at the back, and it's just like kind of old school looking, like vintage Frisbee con T-shirt. Like, oh, where'd you get that? And she's like, oh, it's my dad's. He played. I think she was quite young. I think she was like 20. And yeah, I was like, this is actually, they played in cotton T-shirts, and this is Wall City thing.
Was that back when the wall was still up?
I guess so.
I wonder if the team was around when the wall was still up.
Play over and back over it. There's that famous picture of someone throwing a Frisbee through the wall, isn't there? There's a picture of it. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was a really cool T-shirt, and I was like trying to get her to swap me. She's like, oh, I don't know. And then like, said she's going to make more, but something that I was going to do that didn't happen because my life has been a mess was doing the fashionals, but that was going to be, that's the one bit of Frisbee kit I've actually asked anyone for in like the last
old Wall City jersey.
The old Wall City, it looked cool. And she's like, the thing about making like reprints of it, it's just cotton T-shirts people to wear, and I was like, get me one of those. It look cool. This is like, Berlin's a cool city. Like, Berlin's a cool city, and something made in Berlin in the 80s Frisbee T-shirt sounds fucking cool to me. So yeah, that's my Wall City story. Wall City, sorry. That is my jinx story.
Women's division, Liam. Women's division we're talking about here. Yeah, but jinx, I mean, to be fair to them, I don't want to be super negative, but like, I think it just says how high my expectations were for them. Like, they still managed to get, I think they got 5th in the end, but like, yeah. Love did quite well, and getting quite up there. And, so I think we can maybe talk quickly now about what happened on Saturday morning. So, apparently it was I think some teams were already warming up and some teams were like on their way to the fields or whatever. And it was at this point that they got the message that, what was supposed to be the top 8 teams playing 2 power pools of 4. So you would have gotten 3 games on Saturday, then 2 more games on Sunday, for semis and finals. That changed to just a quarterfinal game. So you lost 2 of your games and you just played 1 quarterfinal game. And that was based on like how you did in the pools and the crossovers. And, most teams were quite okay with it. 3SB, from what I understand, had kind of tried to like play their way into like a power pool. I'm not going to say they intentionally lost to Love because, of course, that's illegal. So they probably didn't do that. But like, apparently they were.
Oh, I covered that game. I did live commentary for that game, Love versus 3SB, and it was rubbish game. It was. I felt really bad for Ali Thomas was doing it. She's like, "You're not even energy." It's like, I know these teams aren't trying that much because at that point they'd both lots of gravity. They're going to play a crossover that like I don't think there's a huge difference in the thingy. And I was just like, I could just tell that they weren't fighting tooth and nail for this game. And there was like points with like 18 turnovers in that game. Like those both
on Thursday or on Friday.
That was on I think Thursday. Was it?
Okay. That was Jana van der Eke on the team for Love?
Yeah.
Okay, she only showed up on Friday. That's what I was going to ask, because if she wasn't there on Thursday. And
I'm not sure now. I'm confused.
It was Friday then.
Maybe it was Friday. Maybe it was Friday.
I think Thursday you only did the Mooncatchers game with me.
Okay, yeah, it was Friday, yeah. I only did. I thought Maria Castillo played for Love. They looked like Love probably were trying it maybe a little harder. I think Lisa Solis had an amazing game, which she always tends to do, particularly when there's a camera on her, which I appreciate. I said Maria Castillo was a player actually new playing in Ireland. I think she's from Venezuela, but she was fantastic. She did some amount of running in that game. They were probably a little bit better. Love 3SB, like I just felt like I've seen these women play before. I think they weren't stacking lines or really going tooth and nail for it. And I kind of said that in the commentary. I was like, this seems like they're not. They wouldn't be the end of the world if they lost. So that doesn't surprise me when you say that. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I know that like John Dock came to the tent while the thing happened and was like pleading anything he could to the tournament directors. Like, this is our whole season. We were planning to do this, and we had our whole game plan set to like try and medal, and like we were gonna have everything worked out exactly how we wanted, and then now we have to play shout in a quarter, and like, yeah. But like, them's the breaks, yeah. And apparently they played shout really close. Like, they actually played a really good game against them when they stacked their lines and did everything they could. So maybe they had a shout at it, but like then, yeah, that when they went down, they lost again, and so like they didn't. I don't know. It's a tough argument for you to make that they really got screwed here by the format, but they were unhappy with the rest of the team. I think it was even Free Speed Women's idea. They were like, "Hey, like this is going to be terrible. Let's just like, why don't we just do quarters, and then we can save some field time and not have to play during a storm tonight and all that stuff." And I think, yeah, I think it makes sense. It's a bummer that it was only the women's division that got affected.
I don't think
it were already in black to play.
I don't
think it makes sense.
I disagree with it. Before I knew Doc was disagreeing with it, just so you know, I'm not siding with Doc here. I'm siding what I think is reasonable. I just don't understand why they did it. I was like, I think you shouldn't I don't understand why we were playing loads of games still and they weren't. Like, we were out.
The big problem was that the next day was supposed to be semis, and they knew all the fields were going to be canceled the next day. Because the way, because of the 17 team format, they had to finish out power pools on Saturday and then play semis in the morning on Sunday and then finals in the afternoon. That was like the plan. And they were like, we can't do semis in the morning. And the last power pool games were supposed to be finished at like the 7 p.m. slot. So it wasn't time to do semis on Saturday either. So like they couldn't have a semifinal. So it would have just been the top 2 playing the final, I guess, and the next 2 playing third place game. which also probably wouldn't sound very satisfying.
Yeah.
And we had lost the 7 p.m. slot. So like there just wasn't, I don't think there was enough time in the day to finish like having 3 games per team. They could only have 2 games per team on the day. And then, yeah, like it was a tough spot to be in. And I understand saying like it doesn't make sense competitively, but I think when you looked at the schedule, there wasn't a way to make it work. And this was the only way to like.
Was there not? Like, could you not just cancel our games and make them play like 2 games back to back? Is that not a better?
Maybe that was possible. I don't know. I know the problem is they couldn't limit any of the top end of the open and mixed divisions because they were already in bracket play. So there was no way to like limit that. And then like, I'm not sure if there was any possibility.
We played 3 games on Saturday.
On Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played it.
That's
yeah. I was like, we're playing 3 games.
But you would have had to get the women to play 4 games.
Yeah, like they're going to play those games anyway. Like I think all of them have big enough rosters that like 4 games on a Saturday. Like there are power pool games as well, you know. Or like at least I would say, could you say like, oh, there's definitely some teams that would have already played each other. Like those results are carrying into power pools. You know what I mean? If you've already played that team in the earlier pools, that must have happened once or twice, did it? I don't know. I think it's a bit rough. And it doesn't sit right with me that like they were just cancelling women's games and not cancelling our games. I'm just like, initially, the only way to explain to me now, maybe probably is too much to put 4 games, but they were suspected to play 3 games and 2, and now they're just playing 4 and 1. Like, I don't know if it's that huge of a stretch. Like, is that not more fair? Perhaps. And
I would have had to look at the schedule again, but I think it would have been pretty tough because like they were supposed to finish during the 7 p.m. round. The power pools, so they had to cut the 7 p.m. round, then move those games forward, and then add another game. And I'm like, I don't know if the schedule would have had room for that. Like, I just don't know if that was at all possible.
Yeah, no, you are saying this, like, it would have been difficult, and that was just the easiest thing to do. And maybe it was.
And apparently, a lot of the women's teams were okay with it. Like, the middle teams, like in Sean's article, he's going to interview them. Like, but teams like Valkyria, Jinx, Free Speed. They were all like, yeah, well, the game we were going to play, we were going to have to win anyways to make semis. So why don't we just, like, we're planning to win that game anyways. And it's just the teams at the bottom, which were Love and 3SB, that I think got a little shafted because they might have had a shot to, like, beat the other teams, but they had to play Yaka and Shout. So, like,
it did protect gravity a little bit as well. To protect, I think. I think they're going to play 3SB again. Was that the plan? I think that would have been a much better game if they played them in power pools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, but it was a hard situation to deal with, and I know that they were like panicking. One thing I think that they could improve on is like try to make these decisions the day before, because I do think that like when they tried to scramble in the morning, I think they could have foreseen a little bit more what was going to be there and like tried to like sort this out the night before, so that teams could be a little more prepared, and like maybe they could have found a solution that was easier. I mean, if it's in the morning, they would have, probably been scrambling and doing the best they could. So yeah, it is what it is. And that did happen. So elsewhere, other teams, we've talked about most of them here. I think the only other thing that I want to mention is the fall of Fabulous. I think a lot of people had Fabulous in semis and they spooned it. I don't know if you saw that. They was tied for last place. And I don't know what's happening there. I think they're integrating a lot of new players and the team, but like literally 12 of them beat Yaka like 3 weeks ago. So I don't know what happened. Talked to some of their players, and some of them were like, yeah, we're just, we got new players. Some of them were like, I don't understand what's going on. We're just losing every game. Like, so something's going on in Bern, but it wasn't a great weekend for the Swiss.
Yeah, like that's a pretty big fall from winning it a few years ago to losing it coming last. Like that is a bit, and like did it notably were very good in bad weather. Now I guess maybe this is more wet than wind, but yeah, that I'm shocked. I don't have any explanation to why they weren't so great. Like their players were there, right? Olivia Hauser was there, Yannicka Tappelman was there, Niederhauser was there,
Charlotte Terrason. Like they had a lot of really strong women on that team, but just kept losing games. Like after they lost to like Terrible Monkeys or something, I was like, what? Very surprised. So I thought, in that group, I thought Valkyria had a shot to beat them, right? Because I saw the roster and I was like, yeah, that's possible. I think I did pick that. Did I pick that? Let me check before I say that out loud. I did pick Valkyria over Fabulous, but I didn't think Fabulous would lose to Terrible Monkeys. And then they did, and then they went further down. So that's enough about that. We're already an hour in. Let's take a quick break. Anything else in the women's division before we go to men's open, whatever we call it?
It's called Open, and no, I think we wrapped up there good.
Okay. All right, we'll take a quick break here, and we'll come back just a second for the Open division. I'm going to talk about here the Open division. We'll start at the top again. Oh, we didn't mention the picks in the women's division.
Did we not?
Just quickly.
No, I think we did, yeah. I don't think there's any point dwelling on it. You picked Gravity on third in the group, and that pretty much wraps it up, I think.
Yeah, so I also did very well in the way we scored the picks, in that I had 7 out of 8 of the top 8, which was power pools. Well, obviously, we just counted that as quarterfinals. My only mistake was counting Fabulous there instead of...
No, you had Gravity.
I did have Gravity.
Heidelbergen or Valkyria or something like that.
All right, who was the top 8? That's Liam's picks, not the real thing. Instead of Free Speed? No.
Love?
No, 3SB.
3SB. Oh.
3SB out. I had Fabulous over 3SB. And then on semis, I had Jinx in instead of Valkyria. The rest I had correct. On your side, you had Fabulous and Heidelbergen. By the way, it's Bärchen. I've been told that we've been saying Bärchen and that we're getting just pretend it's a bear. It's Bärchen, apparently.
Well, we're not going to be talking about him too much anymore. Well, last time I picked up for semis.
You had Heidelbergen for semis and Jinx for semis as well. So you had Fabulous and Heidelbergen in top 8, them also both into semis, and that was your mistake. So I just a little closer there, but I still got the win. All right, Open Division. We got the bracket, top bracket here. Should we start there? Or should we start at the beginning of the tournament?
I think we should tell a story, really. It is a story. We all felt differently about the picks as the tournament progressed.
First game of the tournament, you and I making the call, calling Mooncatchers versus Lafota, and we all thought this was the game that our picks hinged on, right? Like, if Mooncatchers win, Liam's winning the picks easy. If Lafota wins, I'm winning the picks easy. And who won, Liam? What happened there?
It went exactly as I predicted, Ravi, I think. Just like everything else at the tournament.
That if we were picking that game, you would have won.
Yeah, in the roundabout ways we were. Like, we did talk about it on the stream. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I won points for getting that right, but I deserve something as street cred. Yeah, like, I think what I thought was going to happen in this game, which was Lafada was their first game. Their D-line didn't look as sharp as it is the rest of the tournament. They're still kind of finding their feet. Mooncatchers, fresh legs, better weather. Well, that was probably the only round of games that had like decent weather. It was that very, very first round. And they won because they're very good at lashing it deep to really good players. And they were able to play ref a lot, use them on D-line most of the time, and we're bringing up the O-line when they needed him. So they won because they're a very good team and they could do that again. You know, that wasn't... I don't think anyone was really shocked if you know those teams very well. I don't think anyone was that particularly shocked. It was a good game. They won in Universe very tight. Could have went either way.
I think they were shocked. They celebrated like they won the final after that game. I mean,
it's a big win. I don't think they're shocked as much as just like enjoyed it. Like,
sure, yeah. No, I mean they took them to Universe at Basel Open like a few weeks ago, right? So it wasn't like they knew they could play at that level. And they integrated a lot more pieces onto the team. Team looked really good in that game. Like they looked really good. Ushinsky was playing amazing. Matteo Muller, very good. Sofiane Bonton. And then of course the Yonkers brothers. Aaron Brooklocker whose job seemed to be just like play defense and then pick up the disc and lash it to ref. That was his job, which he did quite well, I think.
Good D-line offense. If you got ref when he's fully fit, who was guarding him at one stage for Lafada? Was it Tognetti or something? There's somebody guarding him at one stage, and like at this, they swung across their own end zone, which was a terrifying pass for anyone else. And he just got he's going to get it. Like he's going to win the majority of matchups. If he has a yard, he's going to hold position, get up super early, and skying most people. So if you have him on the D line, like lashing into him as the first option is what you should be doing, and they should have to like drop 3 guys and take that away, so you get like a super easy under. But that's like that should be the first look, and terrified the other team to doing it. I think it actually worked where it was the cusp O-line doesn't really have any kind of really big defenders. It was Mitterer.
Yeah.
I think Mitterer, and then he got injured as well as time went on. That I think that's one thing that the cusp O-line lacks sometimes, is when it just turns over and the other team have a really good deep threat. They don't really have any, like, they're all amazing players, just don't get me wrong, but they don't have any like giants, you know what I mean? That's going to win a sky ball every time.
Yeah. O-line defense is definitely Cusp's weakness.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. They're good. Every other thing, their O-line offense, their D-line defense, and their D-line offense are all good, but their O-line defense is by far like the weakest part of the team. And that was clear throughout the tournament, and like definitely showed in this game. So yeah, Mooncatchers win that game. Then they go into a power pool with the likes of Wall City and Chalk. And, you know, you talked about ref playing D-line. He continued to play D-line. And I think this was a mistake, because you could see their O-line was good, but like Wall City and Chalk have some good defenses, and their defenses looked better than Lafota's defense did in that first game. Like, Lafota's defense was obviously a lot better throughout the tournament, but like their defenses were really good. And while Mooncatchers had a good offense with like Yonkers throwing to Sofiane Bontemps, with Ushinsky or whatever, there were times where like Chalk, I watched the Chalk game, Chalk could like lock down and just like shut everything out. And then you could see when ref crossed over late in the game when they were trying to come back, that he's just like that release valve. Like, it's like Bo Kittredge, just like, you can shut down everything else, but then like we have this like go-to in case everything else goes wrong. And they were missing that when ref was playing D-line. And I think like, yes, ref's good. Yes, you have a good team. And so like you want to put ref on D-line so that you can like try and do that when they trust their O-line for that. But like, you got to score your O-line points. And I think if they had put ref on O in that game and crossed him over to D to get important breaks, I think they could have beaten the likes of Chalk and Wall City. And I really think it, like looking at how they were playing, it was a weird decision to me to put him on D.
Yeah, I got shafted by, I remember I was on my bicycle after the first day. We were staying in a hostel in the town, so we're like cycling across the little bridge thing there, a little archway, and I look over and there's Robert Schumacher. I was like, what? Robert Schumacher? I was told you weren't coming to this tournament. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a big help for Wall City. And they were all like kind of joking, like, oh, well, I was like, you're playing O-line. They're like, well, we wouldn't let him play D-line. And I was like, he's still got game. And like, I kind of thought Mooncatchers, like, because they had to play one of the game against Terrible Monkeys in that group. So I was thinking, okay, they go into that power pool, like, probably still fresh. And they just have to get one win. What's the score lines in those Wall City shacking? I'm guessing they were close. Like, they didn't get blown out or anything.
I'll try and pull it up. You can talk to a little
Yeah, but like, so they tied for bottom with Shaq, which meant on head-to-head to finish bottom of the group. But if they presumably scored 1 or 2 more points and won one of those games, they would have 2 wins and tied for top with Bologna and finished top of the group and got straight into quarters. And that is what was presumably 1 or 2 points is a massive difference to finishing bottom of your group and being straight out or going straight into quarters.
It was a tough pool. It was a tough draw. It was a very tough power pool. Like those 4 teams are all quarters level and could even have a shout. Like, although I think Chalk didn't make quarters in the end, but yeah, they're all very, very good teams, and it's hard to see one of them go down, go out. And this time, as we said, if you didn't follow, Mooncatchers did lose both those games to Chalk and to Wall City.
Didn't find results.
Wall City was very, very good. So yeah, they lost those games. The score lines were close, but in the end, Mooncatchers out. They ended up losing another game to the Bora Bears after that, and ended up finishing 17th after beating Lafota to start the tournament off. So quite the train wreck after starting on such a high and then just completely crashing and burning after that.
Yeah,
it's got to be rough for them.
Yeah, I think I know you've talked about this, and I don't know if maybe I've just played on teams where it's like this, that like once we're out, like we literally don't care. Like in other sports, you stop playing when you're out. Like, you know what I mean? In other sports, like the World Cup in soccer, they don't play for placement. You know what I mean? Because no one would want to. So I think
even the third place game in the World Cup, people like complain about.
Yeah,
like why are we doing this?
Yeah,
why are we...
yeah, which I totally get. And I think like for Mooncatchers, obviously still played, but I'd say as soon as you're like, if they had scored a few more points, made quarters, they would have been still trying very hard and probably still stacking their lines. But I think once they're out, they're like, okay, what are we playing for here? Probably for Worlds. Let's get the bottom end of the roster playing more, doing more. Let's not injure ourselves. The top players. That's how the mindset changed. Like that's how it was for Pelt as soon as we were out. I think that's how for other stuff was just like, okay, now we're just trying to have fun and we're not really worried about results because what's the difference? You know what I mean? So I wouldn't look into that much. I mean, like if really top teams want to win and literally nothing really else matters.
Yeah. So yeah, looking at it, they did lose to Chalk on Universe and they lost to Well City by 2.
Like if they just scored against Chalk,
they had chances to win that Chalk game for sure. They had chances to win.
Like that's just changed. So that's where like the whole thing pivoted on.
Yeah, the whole thing pivoted on that for sure. For sure. They look back on the Wall City game. I think Wall City were very good, but they like that Chalk game. I don't know what happened in that game. I didn't see it, but like I saw the Chalk game and they were like devastated. Like that was the game they should have won.
Yeah, and then that means Lafada play Clapham in the quarters. And that's where my picks don't look so stupid. And I'd be like, that is such a big call. You know what I mean? That is such a big call. And that changes the open division so much. And it probably would have made for a bad final, to be honest. So I'm probably glad that didn't happen. Because I think whatever.
Although it could have been, Ranelagh. It might have been Ranelagh Lafota in the final.
Probably definitely would have been. Would Gentle would have been
amazing.
Would Gentle end up on the other side? No, or Gentle?
Gentle was on the same side as Clapham Lafota, so they would have all been up there. So it would have been Ranelagh. Ranelagh probably would have. By the way they played, they probably would have won out the rest of the group. And
they would have got the easiest road to the final you could ever imagine. Probably like who would they have played? Like Mooncatchers, but
probably Moon.
Yeah, probably beaten up Moon. Could have been Red Bulls. that's what I'm thinking. Looking at that size, like Red Bulls, KFK or something, or like Fui or back again, or that would have been like. And Ranelagh are good. I think. I don't know we're going to touch on that yet because we're kind of walking up through the things, but like, I don't know. Everyone thought I was like talking all the crap with that call, but I was like, I know they're good. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, I don't want to say they're good. Like, I think we all learned that. They're all lovely people. I just want to say, very spirited team, great guys individually, but just as Ranelagh as an entity, I hate it. as like my rivalry and just like something about like Dublin's super club Dublin. And like just have their IFDA logo on it. And it's just a bit naff, the whole thing.
All right, we'll get to Ranelagh in a bit. Let's go division, like bit by bit. So out of pre-quarters teams that ended up getting knocked out, like I said, Chalk beat Mooncatchers, did look pretty good with getting their Montreal guys back, but they ended up with a tough draw against Fui in pre-quarters, who looked amazing. We'll talk about them in the quarterfinals teams, but MUC beat Ranelagh. It was kind of like the punch in the mouth that Ranelagh needed, I think. Ranelagh was up that whole game. MUC went on a 6-1 run at the end of that game to beat Ranelagh, but eventually Ranelagh held on to the top of their pool anyways. So yeah, that is no good. We're also a team that, they had Clapham in the group. They beat the Big Easy. They ended up finishing 9th. I think they're really happy with that result. They tied Chalk, both the French teams up there. Costa Rica was a team that got knocked out by KFK. This guy, I think Luca Paradisi on that team, he's the giant that Lafota needs. Yeah. And I know they're gonna take him any day now. Like, it's gonna happen. I'm sure it's gonna happen soon. But like, they need him. On that team, he was like, I think I was watching the game against Free Speed. It was a really windy game, and they were just throwing like hucks down, just huck and D, and he was winning the battle on both sides because if he was on D, he would get the D. If he was on O, he would catch it over a pack of Free Speed players. I think that's the piece really that Lafota need to integrate. So Davide should be calling him up any minute now. I'm pretty sure to get him on that team.
Nice. MUC always do like win some game in like pools, and it means absolutely nothing, and they end up still falling from the heavens. They're really good at that, aren't they? Winning games, but not amounting to anything.
Not when it comes down to the end of the tournament, then they can't do it at the end. Yeah, beating Ranelagh, but then still losing out in their pool play somehow. Yeah. I guess they lost to Fui and Ronald beat Fui, so it was a 3-way tie, I guess, for the top. Fab lost out to everybody, and Ronald got the point diff. So that's that. Going to the quarters level teams. Teams got knocked out in quarters. Let's go down. So first is Wall City. We talked about it a little bit. Schumacher honestly didn't do that much for them. I was more impressed with everything else on that team. Phil Kay, Christian Gaffney, leading that O-line, Aaron Wolf, really good. And then, of course, Conrad Schlur. Guy is really good at Frisbee. And from what I've heard, I talked to Shuey. He was very excited about playing on this team. It's the happiest I've seen him talk about Frisbee in a really long time, maybe since he played for Clapham back in the day. He said that they got this other guy, Phil Johnson or Johnston or something, this old Clapham player. And he's also playing for Wall City. And apparently him and Conrad are just pushing the team. It's all the rest of the guys are the same, except for those three, Shuey, Phil, and Conrad. But they're just able to push the team to get the best out of them. And they're, you get to play defense against guys like that every week. It's making their O-line a lot better. They're not just kind of screwing around at practice, working really hard, and they're just turned into a really good team. And Schlur was just incredible, who I found out before playing Ultimate used to be a ballet dancer. Did you know this about him?
I heard your soundbite from the commentary with Lorcan, which turns into some weird tangent. Lorcan tends to go on in one of his rants. But I can imagine, I think a lot with the Latvians, they tell me to do a lot of gymnastics. I think there's a lot of countries that do these things, particularly with their men's side, gymnastics or ballet, which certain countries be oh, that's lady stuff. It's that is so good for developing your athleticism and coordination that I used to think, is it Ajax soccer team used to teach their young lads ballet? I think they used to do something like that.
Could be.
Yeah, I can see why that would be fantastic for footwork and strength and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So
his legs are huge. He has the biggest, in terms of diameter. Definitely the biggest.
Were you measuring
legs at the tournament? We were doing a commentary for I think the Wall City chalk game, and most of the chat was just objectifying his legs. That was what they were talking about. But yeah, team's really good, and they really want to take the world's bid from Bad Skid. So they think right now that there's only one open bid for Germany.
Oh,
and they have this qualifier in a couple of weeks, and apparently because Wall City wasn't that good a couple of years ago, and like we said before, they're using a combination of this qualifier and their national results from 2019. So if Wall City get first and Bad Skid get second, Bad Skid still have the points to take the bid or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're trying to protest and change the federation to be hey, this is bullshit. This has nothing to do with how good the teams are right now. Why are we doing this? And I kind of agree with them. I think that they should have a fair shot to qualify for Worlds. I don't think if the team's completely different in terms of the level from 2 years ago.
Did they lose German nationals to Bad Skid?
They lost the German restart tournament to Bad Skid, but that was it was basically nationals, but that wasn't the qualifier, and I think they're going to turn that around. We can talk about Bad Skid also as a quarterfinals team. I thought Wall City looked way better than Bad Skid did at this tournament.
Yeah, that's not Holger, you know what I mean? And
yeah, but he's not going. I don't think he's going to be back for this qualifier either.
Yeah, I don't know if it's unfair if they take the last nationals, let's say they counted this restart nationals thing and another thing, that's pretty it seems
this restart thing didn't count for anything.
I know, but Bad Skid still beat them in that. You know what I mean? If you want to say you want to go there instead of Bad Skid, you want to beat them more than once ever and not be losing to them lots. So.
They did beat them 15-8 in pool play.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter because that was the pool play one. Doesn't matter.
You got to beat them in 2 games that matter. That's what you're saying.
Finish higher than them in 2 tournaments. Okay, how about that? Let's put it that. Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be right, but
or did they tie them? I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
But both of them lost in quarters. Bad Skid was really hurting without Holger. I didn't see much of them, but I saw that. I know they beat Is No Good on Universe, and while I said Is No Good are a decent team, that's not a Bad Skid result. I think that's not something they're super thrilled with. And then they lost to Ranelagh on Universe in a Universe point that had 7 turnovers in it. Nico was pretty Freddie Rogers apparently kind of shut down Nico most of that game. which is very impressive because I don't think Clapham have anybody that can do that. But apparently, Ferdia like really turned on and did that pretty well. And Steph Doscher just had I think he had too much on his back and was just exhausted. Like they're just too shallow of a team. They don't have enough depth. And by the end of the game, Doscher was just making turnover after turnover. Such a good player usually, but like in that game, just really didn't do it. And especially in the final stages where like he really made a couple mistakes that cost Bad Skid the game there. And that would have totally changed the tides of the story of this tournament, as we'll talk about Ranel in a bit. But yeah,
I think Wall City they're the shallowest like a better team going. Bad Skid, like really, if you take away their 4 or 5 best players, they don't qualify for ECF. They'll finish last, genuinely. Like their D-line players, looking at them, they look like a bunch of college kids. Like sometimes, not all of them, but there's definitely some players on that. So like they always can only play their best players. They have to do how do they win, but play them the minimum amount of time. That's what they're always calculating. They can't. Yeah. So you say they only just win games. That's how they work. They don't. It's not like Bologna where they have 2 amazing D lines that come out and win games. And the rest of the best players. That's not how they work. And like, okay, they're missing Holger, but yeah, it's fucking massive that they're missing Holger. Like, you're talking about like Bad Skid without Steph Doscher got to the top 8 and beat Clapham at Worlds. So like hypothetically, even though their depth still sucks, if they add Steph Doscher, they'll have an even hypothetically better roster than last time. If Holger is fit, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't think some of those players are as good as they used to be. Like I don't know if it's like I think Nico would have been better. Like his deeps weren't that on, and like he was not dominant. And I don't know if Ferdia is just that good at D, or
he's
if
not.
Like
tell you right there, right now,
he's not. So then that means that Nico's not like. He's probably still really good, right? Like, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but like European Player of the Year a couple of years ago, he wasn't playing at that level at this tournament. And yeah, maybe that's because he didn't have Holger to help him out, so he was like shouldering too much of it. But I'm just saying just on the eye test for me, Wall City looked like a better team to me. And I know Bads could beat him, right? But Wall City had a chance to win that game, and they like got nervous and like threw it away on Universe. But like, I don't know. I'm just saying. I think right now, if I put my money on Wall City beating them in this qualifier event.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with like a one-off game, and they all have their best players fitting well, I still think Bad Skid win because they'll just stack their lines, and I think their top players are better.
All right,
but I think Wall City are really, really good. I think Wall City are really good. But
other teams that were out in quarters, Fui was amazing. They looked really good. Their O-line, I think, might be the best O-line. This is a big storyline I think I have to talk about European teams. I talked about this with Shui. He mentioned the same thing. Most European teams in the open division do not have good offenses. The defense at this tournament was very good, but there was like not any teams that I thought had a really good O-line. Like all of them were making execution errors off of like, yeah, pressure defense, but like this is what's going to separate us from the rest of the world when we get to Worlds again, because our offenses just aren't good enough. I think Fui's offense, I only saw them in like one game, I think. I saw them a bit against Gentle, and I saw them in another game. I forget, maybe it was the game against Chalk in pre-quarter or something. But like their O-line is really good. And yeah, like Dave Novak, Andre Riedlo, like lots of players that were playing amazingly. And they just really click really well. And it's not just their deep game anymore. They have like a really good give-go game. They have a really good like short pass game. I think they've gotten a lot better since the last time I saw them. Definitely playing the best. They just ran up against this Gentle team who we'll talk about next in the next round, but like very, very strong team. Liked Fui a lot. Similar stuff with KFK. KFK, they absorbed Ragnarok and now they're really good. Now they're a top 8 team in Europe. And I think they deserve to be there. And some people were saying, like, I know I talked to Sfera, and his team's going to be mad because like we always talk about the things that he tells us because he's he always tells us all these nonsense things. But he was saying like he is happy to play at that level, that he gets to be 7th place in Europe. But he's like, now Danish nationals kind of suck. Like there's nothing for us to play for at home, and that's he cared about that so much before. So there was a little bit of like disappointment actually, even though like yeah we get to play, we're a top team in Europe now, but it's like. Now our home tournament sucks. And who's like, it would have been kind of cool if they went and formed another team or went with another club so that at least we'd have like some competition at home. But yeah, look really good. Look huge. They're a big team. They're a big team. Did you see them at all in the weekend?
I didn't. The 2 teams I didn't see really at all because most of the clash of them was KFK and Gentle. So you have to carry on them because All I know, yeah, I did see KFK were big from a distance, and that Gentle have the good player wears the basketball jersey.
Tank top.
Yeah.
Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know him that well. I just saw him doing good stuff in his tank top.
Yeah. Well, we can transition to that. We can start talking about the semis teams. So Gentle, who ended up taking the bronze over Ranelagh, very good. I talked to Ben Vareka, one of the coaches / players of the team, player coaches of the team. He told me that they were kind of surprised that they did this well, but like also were in a good spot because a lot of times playing internationally, they've not been able to bring their whole squad over because of reasons, it's just really hard. But here they were able to do that. They bring in then they have like a huge youth scene. The club is like 350 people. Their club is huge. And they like have a huge youth program. And now those people are getting old enough to play at the elite level. And they're just building it up just like Bologna. Like that's exactly what they're doing in Ghent, Belgium. Really cool to see. So yeah, like we said before, the guy with the tank top, which was Toby de Krijne, really, really good, along with his brother Lander de Krijne, who had like the little kind of dready ponytail look. Also really, really good. The two of them playing amazingly together. The Van de Vega brothers, Arthur and Aaron, also there may be the third one, I think, on the team. But Isaac, all of them incredible players. PJ didn't play until bracket play with the team because he's recovering from long COVID. If anybody watched the stream we did for Tom's tourney last year, he got COVID back then. So like May of 2020, he'd just been recovering from COVID. And now apparently he's has like long COVID stuff and like his body's just not doing well. And that really sucks.
It happens to a few people. He's basically developed like an autoimmune disease, which my neighbor here, same thing happened to her. And like, PJ, obviously someone who's very athletic and fit. And like, it's just a reminder that people who are very athletic and fit, that they can, I think what's happening to her was her white blood cell count kept going really low and this made her immune system, so basically developed an autoimmune disease. And it sounds like he's having something similar. So we just wish him all the best and hope that, it just sucks because we had him on a stream and he said COVID and he was kind of sick. And we're kind of like, oh, that's unfortunate. But we're like, I think everyone was thinking that he's going to be absolutely fine. But then there's a lot of people who aren't fine afterwards. And I'm glad he could play. I hope he's back on.
He did play and he played really well when he did. He was on there and he was doing well. Joran Sanders, another good player. Interesting thing about this team is when they played, I think it was Bad Skid in the power pools. They rested 4 of their top players. So it was like one of those games where they didn't need to win it. If they won it, they won the pool, and then they would have had to face Clapham in semis or something like that. And if they lost it, they would have had a pre-quarter. So they were like, we're not going to lose the game. We're not going to throw the game, but we're going to rest our top players so that in case we lose to Bad Skid, we can play pre-quarters like fresh and stuff like that. And then their depth won the game against Bad Skid. And like in a crazy, crazy game. Really, really good performance by Gentle. And like I said, Toby de Krijne, everybody's talking about him. He's just catching everything. They're throwing whatever up to him and he can do it. So they have like 2 guys like that, when PJ and him, that you can just trust to catch whatever. And that makes for a really strong line. They tried to lose to Bad Skid, still won, ended up undefeated going into Clapham, lost to Clapham, and then beat Ranelagh for the 3rd place game. So they never got to test themselves against Lafota. It's not really clear who was the 2nd best team at this tournament because that matchup never really happened. But 2 very similar teams, like I said, both building up from the youth and having a few older players that are really good, but like the core of the team is very young and is definitely going to be good for years to come. They still have to get through Mooncatchers at some like Belgian qualifier tournament in a couple weeks from now. And like they also only have 1 bid, and that's a team they can definitely lose to. So, Mooncatchers are very good. So that's still yet to be seen who's going to go to Worlds. I saw during the finals that Toby and Davide were sitting next to each other, and Davide was telling him, Toby, if you don't qualify, I give you a call the next day.
That'd be someone for the O-line right there.
For sure, because he can play D. So when on the turn, he'll be like very effective.
For the Red Bulls, of course, we're talking about, right?
Yeah. But yeah, also good to see like Arne Goose out there doing some good stuff. Like older Gentle guard, still doing some amazing things downfield. Joran Sanders, did you see the behind the back pass he had against Clapham. Class.
Yeah, that was unreal. Yeah, that takes bravery right there to do that.
That's just the Belgian way. Like Mooncatcher did that stuff all the time too. It's just something about the Belgians. They love doing weird stuff like that.
I think Arne Goose is Arne. How do you say his last name? Arne Goose.
Yeah, Goose. That's what I was saying. Arne Goose.
Yeah,
it's good to see him back out there after coaching the women's team for a long time. But he was out there doing some cool stuff.
He sent me a message on Facebook. He's like, "Great commentary over a game. That was definitely you, right?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely me." My new favorite thing is like if Lorcan does comedy, I'll claim it. But if he makes weird sexual references, I remember listening. Someone else was doing like the game with the player Epstein, and I was like, I'm really glad Lorcan's not doing this game because there's no way he could side foot his way around that long enough now to making some weird ass joke about it. I think Rapazzo was on. I was like, well done, Rapazzo, for not making any weird reference about that. You know, that's something that would just dangle in front of Lorcan and he would take the bait. He wouldn't be able to resist. But yeah, so those times I deny. I'm like, no, definitely not me. I remember Lorcan gave me his laptop for doing the commentary because I was just like not ready, and he was like on the game before me, and he came over and said Liam Murray on the the laptop. I was like, Liam, what the? This is why people get us confused, Lorcan. You can't have my name on your laptop. All
right, and then I guess we got to talk about Ranelagh. We talked about him already a little bit. Amazing game against Lafota. My favorite game of the weekend, I think, was their semi-final game against Lafota. They played like so much heart, so much energy. They put everything into that game, as apparently they always do. Like that's what they always seem to show. And Ferdy Rogers is playing crazy, amazing game. They could have won that game. Like it was 15-13, and there were times where they had the lead, and like if they were playing pretty tight rotation, and probably a little bit of Cusp depth helped them out in the final stages of the game. But like that game definitely could have gone either way. And very impressive to see the Irish. They've never made quarters before, and then they make it to the bronze medal match. They didn't quite win it, but like really great performance from Ranelagh. How do you feel as a Pelt guy seeing Ranelagh do so well at the European stage?
They're very good at Frisbee. They're very good at Frisbee. Don't know if I'm just buying this whole Ferdy Rogers hype train. I don't he turned over twice that made Blodgett take the lead, right? I rewatched the game there and I was like, they were winning and he dropped one and threw one into the ground. Like, so did anyone else see that? Am I watching a different game? Ferdy is very good, but like, he's not the best player on that team.
Who's the best player on that team?
Ty Deevy, in my opinion.
He was pretty. Ty Deevy was like a receiver, but like, yeah, he was.
He's got a big ass flick. Like if he's under pressure, he will throw it probably to Luke Doyle, and they do that sometimes. Like actually, like downfield, it's that's why we struggle so much against them. Like how their offense works, and they actually have a good O line. You're talking about teams that don't have good O lines. Mm-hmm. I saw Ben Noonan actually come onto the O line, which I liked. Ben was a rebel player. He's actually played with Pelt before at EUCF. And has always had amazing throws, but a bit spicy. But I think he realized that if he plays calm enough, they'll let him play and he's good enough. I think they had other players kind of taking that third handler role that are not as good as him, I think, but maybe more reliable. But he stepped up in it really well. I think Matthew Feely just breaks the mark really well, and I think he more runs the offense. Well, him and Ferdy are just very safe. But then downfield they have Ty Deevy, Luke Doyle, Sam Murphy, Jack McNamara, who are incredibly fast. Just like people don't really like, they are some of the fastest cutters in Europe, and it is so hard to guard them. It really is. And for a while there, for a couple of years, the likes of Tig and Luke maybe weren't a bit more like college kind of throws, like they might throw it away, but they actually always had big throws. Like both of them have big throws, big backhands, big forehands. But now they just railed it into like a little bit, but they can. If they're under pressure, they will throw a hawk, you know? Like Ty is a really big flick hawk. Probably,
I don't think I saw it much this time.
I think they can probably throw, I think both of them can throw further than the handlers, really. I think most of their downfield cutters they can throw further than their handlers. But Feely and Rogers is very good at resetting and doing the right things. Like, I think that's what they need to be awarded for. And Ferdy's defense, I don't like. I'd mark him in games because I was like, he's the worst on defense on that whole-line.
He was good this tournament, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. This is some hype train. I'm not buying it. Everyone just sees the one name and has decided to go that. Jack Mack and Ty on are way better defense, unfair, yeah. Look, they're really good. And then their D-lines is just another, like, you know, essentially another 20 good players. They're really good. I think they had a lot of injuries that, like, started creeping up with them, but their D-line has a super intensity. I think can bring the similar intensity that Bologna and Clapham can bring. I think they're probably the third best, just, like, straight up intense defense. And yeah, look, they deserve to be there. I mean, I'm throwing some too much shade at Ferdia, but look, they've a lot of depth. Like, you talk about players like Keith Myrna wasn't really involved, like Dark Kaler was carrying injuries. Like, they have players like that, dude. They have a lot of injured players who weren't involved, and if they were, they'd be even better. So,
has this been a long time coming, or is this like they've stepped up this year? And
I think it's a long time coming.
I haven't seen them, like, even in 2018, they had that game where they crushed Chalk, right? And that was like a huge surprise to me. They beat Chalk 15-5 at Windmill. But their results were never that impressive at international level before this year.
These are all maybe 1 or 2 years younger. Maybe this is all still the same generation that, like, beat GB's teams on grass or sand. Like, this is the same guys. Like, this is, and debatably they're just as good as any Irish Open team. Like, okay, they're missing the pelt guys, but we play different to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, I still think Podge is the best player in Ireland, but having 1 or 2 pelt guys wouldn't really help them. You know what I mean? So it's basically like an Irish men's team. You know,
how do you think Podge would have felt if Ronald beat Lafota in that semifinal?
He would. I'd say very, very annoyed. Yeah, it's a big grudge match, but especially because he doesn't have that big of a role on Bologna. Like, I think if
he actually does, he has a much bigger role this year than
it's getting bigger. But, like, I think he's one of the best players in that roster. He just has to earn that spot. You know what I mean? I think they probably like him on defense because he's probably, let's say,
I think he's good in that role because he anchors the D-line offense when they turn it over, and that's, like, an important thing to do. And, like, I don't think they need him on the O-line, right? Actually, no. Their offense had a lot of problems, but, like, they don't need him to do that, and that just shows how much depth that team has, that they can put a guy like Podge on the D-line and have him anchor an amazing D-line offense.
I think it almost hurts him that his actually defense is very good. And I think he's like someone, let's say, like Copy, who's a handler, they're like, well,
Copy can't play D-line.
Yeah, so that's why, like, there's a lot of O-line players who can, like, play D-line, so they're going to play the most. So that's what maybe hurts him, but I think he was, like, they needed him to throw hawks and be the main handler. But I think, like, if you want to lose a round, like, you want to go out on his own sword rather than, let's say, other people losing. But they didn't, because Freddie turned over. That's why.
All right, so now let's get to the final. We had Clapham versus Lafota. Clapham got the win this time. Very close game. It started off looking like it was going to be completely lopsided at the beginning of the game. Lafota, as they always do, as they always do, except for the final in 2019. Their O-line makes some mistakes. As we said, their O-line defense isn't good enough to get it back on a team like Clapham. So they gave Clapham a lot of breaks at the beginning of the game, and then their D-line just, like, comes back and helps them get back into the game. And they brought it to 8-8, and then it kind of traded a bit back and forth there, and then it was 11-10. Off of some amazing plays before that. I mean, you could read the recap. On the recap, we have all the plays, like, listed, and I put little, like, streamable links so you can, like, watch the GIFs of all the amazing plays there. But then at 11-10, there's a long point. I think that was that point or the point before that Justin Ford had this, like, contested foul call against Luca Tognetti that took a really long time. So the point lasted a really long time, and so the cap horn went off during that point. And if Lafota scores, they go to 11-11 Universe Point. I forget if it was Laffy or Gasparini who had the disc on the one far side of the field, and he throws a crossfield blade into the break space where both Rossi and Mastriani are available in the space, but Mastriani has a much easier catch on it, and Rossi, like, leaps for, like, a heroic kind of, like, leaping layout grab and ends up just macking the disc out the back of the end zone. And if Lafota had caught that, they had momentum on their side. I think they could have won. As it was, Clapham went back the other way, scored it, and then just, like, shut the door, got a break on them, whereas Lafota's O-line couldn't really handle that pressure. And 13-10 in what could have been a Universe Point thriller. What do you want to say about Lafota and Clapham?
Yeah, it started off the game, Clapham looking good. I think it was good. Justin Ford kind of was playing what I think would suit them is playing a little bit of handle roll at times. I think he threw an early backhand hook, which is something, they're usually forcing backhand against Clapham. That's what we did earlier on in the game. And the likes of him coming back, and I said to Briggs, I was drinking with him that night, I was like, you learned how to do a backhand hook last. Briggs threw some good backhand hooks. He's probably always been able to do it. That's probably a cheap doubt. Yeah. But I think
just that his flick hook is so good.
I think they relied a bit too much on his flick hook, the offense. You know what I mean? I think they almost built off that, and other teams didn't really take it his way as much as Bologna. And then I think
every team forces them backhand now. I saw them in a couple of games, and every team just forces them backhand after they probably saw from that.
It's funny. I remember saying to him, chatting and having a few beers, that he was on their D line for years, right, Briggs, and he used to always do that, but nobody really pays attention to a team's D line offense or makes adjustments like that. But then just once you go onto the O line, you're just such a marked man. I think Alex Brooks. That kind of ran those early breaks. Yeah, I think he did really well. Looked came in and looked like the best offensive player in the game almost at times. Even though he was on the D line, he just really ran the offense, got involved, very precise what he's doing. He looked very organized when he was running the D line offense. It took a load. It was 6-2 or 3 or something. Took a load of early breaks, and I was like, I don't know,
6-2.
6-2. Yeah, I was like, that's just such a mountain to climb against Clapham. But they kind of climbed the mountain. I think a big change which really worked was forcing middle. They did that kind of tactic change kind of halfway through the game, rather than
they were doing that earlier as well. It
seemed like they were better, and the sideline were really shouting it. They had the whole sideline. Every time they were changing force, were shouting it.
No, do it!
Yeah.
Oh no, do it!
And I just think that the defense changed. Something changed anyway. It definitely seemed like they're playing force middle more, but they managed
they were doing a weird force middle. It was like a force backhand up until the sideline. It was force backhand for 2/3 or more of the field, and then they only forced flick when it was really on the sideline. And then whenever it went even a little bit off the sideline, went back to backhand again. But worked out.
Yeah, I think they did make some adjustments and ended up both D lines looking way better. Both offenses looked shaky. There was a struggle for offense to score, and it's just please God score so we can get the D-line back on the field and it'll go on a run. You know what I mean? The D-line is likely to go on a run if we can get them back on there. And yeah, I was because a lot of my picks I think Bologna would beat Clapham, right? Now, I thought it was going to be a different game, but I still would have felt good. I might have won the picks if they'd won, but I was thinking, saw the disc go up across the field, I'm Bologna are going to win this. There was that much time in that around flick play, and Rossi, who had a great game, made some big grabs. I think quite a young player. I don't know, I'm presuming Mastriani's shouting at him to leave it, but that's just...
I think he wasn't.
No?
We mentioned on the stream, I think Mastriani also backed him to catch it.
Yeah, he probably does catch that most times anyway, so
yeah.
It's probably weird to be shouting at a player.
Of that Holger catch in the GB Germany final.
Another time Clapham got away with it, or the British boys got away with it. But it's just...
GB aren't Clapham, Liam. They're two different programs.
Yeah, sure. It just would have been great for a spectacle, you know what I mean? We just got denied that. And as soon as it missed and it went down, I was like, well, they're not scoring. It's game over. That was the winning point then, and it was just 13-10, and it was a bit anti-climax that we didn't get that universe point. That would have just been so great. It would have been so great to get that universe point.
A great way to finish off.
And maybe I'm saying they would have done it just because that's what I wanted. I think I wouldn't mind Clapham winning on universe. I just wanted that moment in my life. It would have been great to see.
No, but I mean, I really think like you said, both offenses look shaky to me. So I do think that if they had started on D with their best D line out there, I'm not saying they definitely would have won, but they would have had a chance to for sure. That game, Venturoli was really good on Bologna. Torben Horschenmeyer, the German guy on that team, also really good on their D line. I think they lost Alessandro De Luca on one of the first points. Who was one of the younger players on their O line.
Pulled a hamstring on a deep shot.
Pulled a hamstring, and I think he was out the rest of the game. And that also probably didn't help their O line to stay steady, because I think they were relying on him a lot in earlier games.
Pasta bones. The Italians got pasta bones.
Pasta bones. Yeah, they were out. They didn't have Chopo on that line, so yeah, we'll see. They couldn't quite pull it out this time. On Clapham, this typical. Their O-line looked pretty similar. They had Ollie Gordon. Didn't Ollie Gordon used to play a lot more D-line?
Yeah, no, he used to play O-line. He's playing O-line.
Always D-line, yeah. And it was all O-line now.
I think it was a good move. Sometimes he didn't turn over. So it was like, he doesn't, obviously he's not a guy who makes big throws, but like, he can roast anyone deep. He did it a couple of times.
And they got other big defenders like Rowledge and stuff and Slaughter. So like he doesn't need to be on the D-line as much as he probably needed to be.
Rowledge is washed up, man. Gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
He peaked early.
That knee injury, that knee surgery is really.
I heard he had surgery.
Yeah. It was, surgery on his knee. Yeah. And any blocks? Just no blocks? What happened to 3 blocks in the game? That was the last time I think. Gone.
He had an assist.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. He's a handler now. I think he's made that his deep defending days are over. Yeah, he looked like one of the fastest guys in the division. Not looking like it now. That knee needs another surgery, I think. I was saying this to him. I met him after pints as well. I was throwing that shade at him. So he did end up in like a handler position at times. It's really bizarre. It's just like, what? Yeah. Why aren't you doing the things I thought you'd do?
I thought Connor McHale played pretty well in the game on defense, and he's really fiery, trying to get his team all amped up, like throwing the towel around, every time his team was doing anything. Classic hype stuff.
Great disc golfer. I think he had a great defense where he peeled it off the back well. Someone that
then he threw it away.
He did, yeah. It was like a weird miscommunication of Briggs. Does count as a turnover for him though. That's one of his stats.
It definitely counts as a turnover for him.
Yeah, I don't know, but like it was
definitely
But it's one of those things where like throw to someone and just like they were free and then they moved it away and it's just like, God damn you.
Yeah.
It's like that's what he threw it where he wanted to throw it, but then like that's just yeah. So I think I remember saying to him, I was like, he might be an outside shot for the World Games team. I think he's kind of one of those all roundy players.
I think he was a little salty that we didn't pick him, or we didn't. I don't even know if we mentioned him when we did the picks with Sean.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was looking at him going like, okay, all right, this is statement made. Who is it? It's Lucy Barnes and Sam Viola, I heard, running the the mixed coaches from the previous cycle. I hear Sam Viola.
I think there's a lot of drama behind that because they were just picked. There's no like application process. There's a whole thing. Well, let's not talk too much about GB Ultimate. This podcast has gone long enough. We'll talk about that some other time. Anything else? Barsazi, I thought looked really good. Great addition to their D line. I mean, it's just I do think Clapham were like the better team this time, and Lefoto were missing a couple pieces to injuries and whatnot. And like their O-line defense is what they really need to improve, I think, to beat a team like Clapham. So Kopi might have his days a little numbered, I would say. Like he's very solid, very good, but like liability on defense, I'd be a bit worried about my spot on the team if I was him. But
let's not focus the same. I think all of them like are lacking a little bit of that defensive energy sometimes.
But like Laffy and Gasparini are athletic as hell. Like they should be better. Shouldn't. Like Kopi has an excuse, he's old, but like the other guys on that O-line should be better at D. But they're also small.
It's like kind of a mentality as well. Do you know people just have that fire and aggression like that?
Yeah, probably they're just like, probably they don't get broken very much, right? Like whenever they're used to playing teams where they score every time on their O-line. But they get to practice against their D-line. Like they should play a lot more where their D-line plays O against them and like get better at D and try and get that fire back because they need it. Just against teams in the US, it's going to be their O-line's going to play some D points. So
you just get players like that, and like we have players like Killian Flynn and Owen Lawler Soup, we call him, who just get free every pass. Like on offense, unbelievable, always free, always scoring goals, and on defense, they're just rubbish. They're just like you can't see how they get free every time and they can shut down nobody. They just don't have that like. That's okay. It's a little bit of exaggeration, but it's just not. There's not, and you see that with all the O-line Bologna players. They just don't have that same, like even Mastriani, who's probably like a similar athleticism. He just has it. Okay, he definitely fouls a bit, which like you should. I'm not endorsing fouling, but like he has that desire and eye for when he can see an opportunity, and they just don't really have that. Like sometimes you need, I think Pelter example, sometimes you need like a bit of D-liney people on offense sometimes, like and that sounds silly, but you need just to have somebody to respect that might do something crazy, which the Bologna guys don't do, but sometimes you need a little bit of that. And you need people who can defend when you fucking turn over, because every O-line is going to turn over. You're going to turn over. So why not have people who can get it back as well?
All right. We'll see if they can improve that out. So looking quickly at the picks. My picks again, very, very good here. My only misses were I had Wall City in semis over Bad Skid, but they didn't quite make it in. The other semis up to the finals were good. And my quarters,
what do
I
you
had.
mean your other semis? Did you use Ranelagh in the semis?
Yeah, so that Wall City instead of Ranelagh was my one.
Okay.
Was my one error. So then Mooncatchers and Fooey. Fooey is correct. So yeah, it's just Mooncatchers was my only mistake on quarters. Other than that, I had all the quarters teams in. Let's look at Liam's picks here.
Yeah,
you had Bad Skid. You had Bad Skid in the semi. That didn't quite work out your way. And then you have this whole bracket section that was completely wrong. Whereas it was you have Mooncatchers versus Free Speed in the quarters. Both of them weren't in the quarters, and you have Mooncatchers moving on from there into semis and moving on from there into the final. Whereas they didn't even make pre-quarters. Free Speed also didn't look very good this tournament. They looked great at the Basel Open, played good against all his teams. I think it just shows you how good this division's gotten. That you can be really good, but I think after Clapham and Cusb and maybe a couple of those teams in the top, the level of parity I think is really high for the rest of Europe right now, which is really cool to see. So you could have just a little bit of an off day, and your tournament could be over. And I think that's what happened for Free Speed. And yeah, they lost out to Costa Rica and didn't make it through. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you say it like that, it sounds like I'm an idiot. But if Mooncatchers beat Shaq, then my bracket looks pretty damn good, and your bracket looks a bit stupid. You know what I mean? That was okay. I stand by my picks. There's logic behind them. This is when you
can stand by them all you want. They didn't give you very many points, but you can stand by them all you want.
I did not get many points for my picks.
Looking at the points and the picks, actually among the whole, we had 98 people total, including the two of us that picked in this tournament. I actually won. I think it's the first time I've ever won the picks contest out of anybody, with 87 points out of a possible total of 96. And you got 57th place, Liam, pulling up the dead middle.
How many people picked Mooncatchers to beat Lafada? How many people picked that? You know what I mean? I've won a picks contest before. I won the windmill picks with 300 people in it. Let's just, this is your first time. Congratulations on your first win of a thing. Yeah.
So salty. So salty.
Yeah, well, it's just, there was very little difference between mine and your picks now, realistically, but. And
you scored 59 points and I scored 87, so the point differences will beg to differ there.
Yeah.
Rasmus Okjaer, who I always mess up his last name, and he's a friend. He likes the podcast a lot, and I know him really well. He's a KFK guy. He ended up getting second place, so he's going to win the full subscription for Ulti Worlds.
No, you win a full subscription.
I win the full subscription.
It's not unusual for people organizing things to win it. No, don't give him nothing. You gave him second.
Well, I'm going to give it to him anyways. Rasmus, we'll get in touch with you later. But yeah, this was 2 hours of podcast. I think we're probably I've done enough work for Ulti Worlds. I think I'm not going to do subscribers only pod this time since you didn't do Factionals. Any other last thoughts?
All right, fair enough.
Do you want to talk about Factionals? Do you have anything to talk about? If you have something to talk about, I'll do it. But if you...
Nah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do it. We'll see. Subscribe to find out if we do it or not.
All right, so yeah, we have a couple things going on later on this year. We'll have the big tournament in Madrid in November. We'll talk about that probably, and then we'll get into our club awards, our European Players of the Year, and stuff like that. So I definitely have some thoughts on that. We'll start putting that together at some point. So still some off-season coverage to come. We'll probably be updating the podcast a bit less frequently, as you can probably expect. But for now, for Eurozone, I've been Ravi Vasudevan.
And I've been Liam Grant, and we will